So I know this is a very big question, Michael, but where do you think we are now in terms of the kind of global debate about getting the best citizen outcomes from public services? How is that debate poised, do you think?
I think more than ever before, the effectiveness of government is kind of right in front of us, because we see parts of the world where it's completely imploded, and you see what happens when there isn't an effective government. And even when you have got a functioning government, because of the pressures of the financial crisis, because of the demands people are making on the government, on governments, again, around the world, what you see is people really demanding that government delivers for them, but at the same time not being willing to pay ever-increasing amounts of money for that delivery, which is a dilemma, sometimes a contradiction, but a driver definitely of innovation. So that's one big change. And I think that's somehow the last 10 years, the pressure for government to deliver right around the world has increased. The visibility of places without government has increased. So that's one thing. The second thing is, compared to when you and I were in Downing Street, which is only 10 years ago, the amount of data around and available to analyse, make sense of things has just exploded. The third, though, is that the global economy has shown us that however effective government is, there's a lot of things that aren't in the control of government, and you need governments to respond as they tried to do to those big crises. But there's a whole sort of surge of human activity that is way beyond control of government, that was always there, but is greater than before. So if you put those three things together, I think the global debate is challenging, because there's an undertow, and you see it in European elections, you see it in American elections, and you certainly see it in places like Pakistan, that people have kind of given up on government. They're pretty skeptical about its effectiveness. They don't really think it's going to deliver. So the challenges have got greater, and the level of cynicism or lack of faith in government's ability to deliver is quite high. So actually I think it's quite a challenging time, and the worry comes where cynicism about a particular government becomes cynicism about government and democracy in general, and then you've got real fundamental challenges on your hand about whether we've got the models right.
So just give us a kind of 5-minute account of what the efficacy framework is at Pearson, what you're setting out to do.
Pearson is a global education FTSE 100 company, and its mission is to improve people's lives through learning. It sells to a range of buyers, sometimes direct to consumers, sometimes to governments and or universities or whatever, a range of products to help with learning. So assessments, curriculum materials, all the kind of inside services of a university. There's a whole wide range of products. I started there in 2011. Some of my team were in the room. I had heard before I went, and it was one of the things that excited me about going there, talk about efficacy, by which they mean measuring the impact of everything, all the products that Pearson produces on learner outcomes. And people were talking about it, but actually doing it wasn't happening. And in the team, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've tried to put in place, I think with some success, so there's a long way to go, a system that will enable us to do that. And we didn't do it in a top-down way. You might be surprised to hear. We did it in a kind of lateral way. We built a network of people who were enthusiasts for this, and designed a process for reviewing a product. Did it have efficacy? And then we trained a couple of hundred people around the company to do that, and they started reviewing products. And what we found is when we did these reviews, that you really motivated and engaged the team, because they were working away on some product that they were committed to, but people in management only ever asked them about were they hitting their financial targets. And now somebody was saying to them, are your learners really benefiting? And it reminded them and excited them that that's why they'd come to Pearson in the first place. And then our current Chief Executive, John Fallon, took over in January 2013, and he had become an enthusiast, and he put it at the heart of the new strategy. It's getting people to think about the learning outcomes they want to change. It's getting people to draw on the evidence in the design of products, and then to plan that and to build the relationships on which success will depend.
It's interesting, because I was talking to you about a year ago and your team about a year ago, and it felt at that moment that this was it wasn't clear it was going to succeed. It feels now you're talking with more security that you really think it's going to go drive through. And where do you think it goes next?
There's leadership commitment from the whole executive, so that's important. I think the Pearson's financial performance has picked up. And
but you have to often go through a valley, don't you,
yes,
before you get improvement?
Yeah. The famous implementation dip. The knowing when something's going wrong in government and knowing when you're just going through the implementation dip that you're always going to go through, and distinguishing which is a very, very important thing, because otherwise you're endlessly retreating when actually you should be going forward. Our efficacy strategy can only work if Pearson is a successful company, profitable, growing, and all of that. And we're very, very conscious of that. So in time, we've got early evidence, but in time, we'll need to show that by focusing on efficacy, we're also ensuring the growth and success of the company. So that's one thing that remains to be done, at least at sort of company-wide level.
What would you do if it didn't?
Well,
what would you do if you said, well, actually, the problem with efficacy is it's hard to make money out of it?
I think that the prize that we all think we're hoping to see is not just that Pearson succeeds with this, but the idea that the education debate gets shifted onto what are the outcomes we want and how do we know whether we're achieving them and couldn't we get more progress. That's a big idea, and we would like to play our part in seeing global education systems change, because if you look around the world, there are 70-something million children not in school at all. There are 250 million children who are in school but not learning, and then there's a whole lot more children and young people in educational institutions who aren't learning enough to prepare them to be successful in the modern world. And so we want to play our part in that.